Welcome everybody in. We have a special guest today. Alessio is joining us from Leading Trader. He is going to be sharing some of his favorite charts at the moment, including one that I saw in the comments about Elliott wave theory and where the next top with Bitcoin could be. As you guys know, Alessio is an absolute mastermind with Elliott wave. You are, Alessio. You're the man with Elliott wave. I will say it for you. You're incredible with it, and we're happy to have him on the show today. And we're looking forward to what he has to share with us. He has a handful of charts, and let's jump into it. Alessio, welcome to the show. Where do you see the market present day? Obviously, we've seen quite the exuberance in Bitcoin. Things are heating up. A lot of people have a lot of different opinions. Where's your mindset right now with Bitcoin? Where do you think we're at? What do you think is going to be the key parts of what happens next?
Sure. I'll show you the charts in a few seconds, but Steve, I think we spoke some time ago, I remember many months ago, and at the beginning, just to get some context, from the beginning of this year, I would say from January of this year, maybe then December of last year, I've been bullish on Bitcoin for a number of signals. So I saw them, by the way, which you agreed with. I think you and I both agreed, I think I recall, in December of 2022 and in January, that there was some many bullish signals, like a MACD crossover. I think you mentioned it as well in your videos. There was like a MACD crossover on is it weekly or 2 week? And that got me very bullish on Bitcoin because usually when that occurs, price goes higher, much higher. So I've been bullish on Bitcoin, just like yourself, from the beginning of this year, from January. We've both been right. And it's amazing to me how so many people at the time were extremely bearish. I remember reading the comments, people expecting a crash in Bitcoin at the time in January of this year. And I maintained this consistent bullish bias on Bitcoin throughout from January onwards. Even when Bitcoin had those two big drops in the summer period, I said, look, that's part of an ABC correction, which we'll have a look at in a few seconds on the Elliott wave charts. But so even now, as you'll see, I have some expectations on Bitcoin.
I love that. I'm curious to see. It's been a little bit since we've discussed, and it's tough being the other guy on the other side of the fence when everybody is playing on the other side, screaming, "Why aren't you over here with us?" So I find myself over there a lot, which makes the comments very interesting. But the charts always win. And I know that you're a master of the charts. You believe in the charts. So I would love to see what charts you have to share with us.
So, this is a chart of Bitcoin just currently, as we're recording this right now, just hit 40K. The 40K, by the way, was a target that I had for a very long time. I would say since the spring of this year, even as far back as, I think it was February or spring, March, April, I've been bullish on Bitcoin looking for 40K. The reason why 40K mattered to me was because that was the 61.8% logarithmic retracement. Now, I don't have the logarithmic Fibonacci levels on my chart. It's the standard linear Fibonacci levels on the chart. But my point is that 40K was the logarithmic Fibonacci 61.8% level. But what I have on this chart is a different Fibonacci level. In any case, we hit 40K. I think it was last night or this morning, the early hours. But in any case, so far so good. And I'm looking for Bitcoin now to continue its momentum. Now, we might see a pullback before we get to those next levels, but I think eventually in the next few weeks, but maybe by the end of this year, by the end of December, we're looking at 47K, which is a level Manuel Bly mentioned based on what's called the rule of 7. But that's also very close, as you can see, Steve, that level, if I just get my annotations, I get my pen. Yeah, so 47K, 48K actually happens to be the 61.8% standard linear golden ratio, retracing from the prior decline, 2021 highs near 69K to the lows we made in 2022. Okay, so 48,547 on this chart, or let's just say 48K, is the 47K to 48K is the next likely level to be reached on Bitcoin by the end of this year, if not by the end of this year, perhaps Jan. But that's where I'm looking as the next most likely resistance for Bitcoin and the next target. By the way, if you see that B line, there is this next level just above that, which says 1.618. That's the golden ratio extension. at 50,124. Now that level is calculated. If you measure this, what I call as potentially as wave 1 or wave A. Again, I don't know which one we're dealing with. In other words, I don't know if this is wave 1 or wave A. And we'll find out in the next few weeks and months. It's too soon to call. It's too soon. But let's just say whatever. Let's just say this the initial wave, and this was the correction, the ABC correction. Okay, and so as I mentioned before, A wave, B wave, okay, C, the small c. Then this next likely move, the 1618 extension, standard linear extension, by the way, would take us to that level, 50,124. Bear with me a second. Okay. So that's basically it. I'm not saying when it was I'm not saying Bitcoin is going to go in a straight line. Obviously, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that that's most likely the next level we're going to reach, perhaps by the end of this year. Need a 1600 extension, but I would say in the range of 50,000 to 48K. This entire range. Let me just get rid of these lines. Okay, so just going to go over everything here. Okay, that. Okay, and basically, I'm thinking that range we're seeing there, range of resistance, range. I should have drawn this a little bit better, but you get the picture generally. So I'm looking at that box region for Bitcoin eventually in the region of 48K to be reached. And that I think is quite likely for Bitcoin. Here's the bottom line. Here's why that matters. Now, it doesn't guarantee or a certainty we're going to hit those levels, no, but I think it's likely because Bitcoin usually retraces at least 61% golden ratio retracement, usually traces to that golden ratio level. And also it happens to be the next resistance too. If you look, this also happens to be the prior resistance high there as well. And 50K is a psychological level too, and that's the 1618 golden ratio based on the first initial wave and then projecting it from this, like I said, again, if you measure this high, project it from this low, then it gives us that 50,000 level. That I think is the most likely level to be reached on Bitcoin in the next several weeks and months. Now here's what's really important. Let me get rid of all these. What Bitcoin does from that next target, from that next level, what Bitcoin does from this region will tell us whether we're going to reach all-time highs or not. Because if Bitcoin reaches that level, and I think it will, if Bitcoin hits those levels of resistance and then pulls back correctively, that's a good sign because that will tell us that most likely we could reach all-time highs. However, if it pulls back impulsively, which in daily wave theory means 5 waves, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if we pull back in that kind of fashion, in a 5-wave pattern, forget it. Then, not forget it, but it becomes less likely. Okay, so pay very close attention, I would say, to your audience there, Steve. Pay very close attention to how Bitcoin retraces anywhere from 47 to 50K. Okay, if it pulls back, by the way, I'm looking at a daily chart. This is a weekly chart, but for the pullback, I would be looking at daily charts and maybe 60-minute charts, hourly and daily charts. So if the pullback is 3 waves, okay, that would be a good sign. It's a bullish sign for Bitcoin. If it's impulsive, not corrected, but impulsive, 5 waves, then very dangerous sign for Bitcoin because that would indicate that we've reached the top in Bitcoin, which would mean this entire rally was an ABC corrective rally. I'll be honest with you, Steve, I don't know what type of pattern we're dealing with right now. It's too soon at the moment. I need more information. Let's go to the next slide because I'm sure you want to look at that one too. So this is what's called the sentiment cycle. Sentiment cycle is the different emotions people feel at different stages of the market. So you can see from the emotional cycles, we got belief building phase, maximum optimism, last gasp, then fear, maximum pessimism, and then again, same things going over again. So bullish to bearish. I'll be honest with you, I'm not quite sure where Bitcoin is on this sentiment cycle. Personally, I think I'm more confident that the stock market is in the last gasp stage. So as far as the stock market is concerned, I think we're in the last gasp stage. So in other words, I think in the stock market at the S&P, I think we're probably in this last phase, which by the way, could take us towards potentially, I mean, that last gas stage may probably take us towards all-time highs. But on Bitcoin, I'm less sure. So I would say for Bitcoin, we might be in either one of these levels, in either one of these phases. Let me just get my pen again. We could be either the maximum optimism or last gasp. There is an argument, by the way, that we could be in the belief-building phase as well. I mean, there is an argument we could be here. But I would need to see more information before I could make a judgment. Overall, that I think we are about to reach, I think on Bitcoin, we could potentially reach maximum optimism. I don't think we're probably there yet, but I think we're going to reach eventually last gasp, maximum optimism in the next several weeks. Okay, in the next several weeks and months. So probably we're not there yet. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is the Elliott wave counts. So you're asking me where I think we are. I think in the bigger picture, I think we're in the wave 5. So I think we're going to reach. The question is, and this is the big question. The question is, are we at the moment in the final stage of Bitcoin? In other words, are we in this 5 of 5, which means we could go to all-time highs and then make a top? Okay. I think that might be your view as well, Steve, from what I've heard from you. We'll come back to that at some point. But so there's two views on this. Either we're in the wave 5 of 5 going to make all-time highs. I'll be honest with you, I'm not in that camp at the moment because I need more information. As I said at the beginning of this video, I need more information on how the next pullback takes shape. Or it could be that we are in this phase. So this, in other words, we might be in this B wave, rolling this B wave here, a large B wave rally, ABC rally, before the next bear market takes hold. So in other words, in this wave count, in this other scenario, this rally we're seeing in Bitcoin could be the last major rally, ABC rally, before we roll over and go and crash and fall into a bear market. Again, I don't know whether we're in this one either. As I said, I need more information. And I know some of your viewers are thinking, oh, well, that's the problem with Elliott wave theory. You have, there's no way to tell. It's all subjective anyway. Well, it's true that there is some subjectivity in all of technical analysis, not just Elliott wave theory. But I would say to those people, I would wait until we get more information from the market. So it's not true that, who cares? It doesn't make a difference. No, it does make a difference. So as I said at the beginning of this video, let's see what Bitcoin does at near 47 to 50K, as I said at the start. Let's see what Bitcoin does, how it reacts to those levels of resistance. If the pullback is corrective, that's bullish. If the pullback is impulsive and then breaks down below 40K again from those higher levels, if from those higher levels it break down below 40K and 35K, guess what? That would mean we were probably in the second scenario, the bearish one. Okay, so I think in a few weeks and months, we'll find out which wave count we're dealing with. The bullish one, the wave 5 of 5 going towards all-time highs, or the bearish one going towards a bear market. And the final thing, well, actually, you probably have some questions for me, Steve, before I show you the last few charts. I've got a couple more to want to show you here. As you can see here, we got two different wave counts. Bearish count, bullish count. I asked legendary Elliott wave analyst Bob Proctor about these two different wave counts. Again, the bearish one and the bullish one. The blue one is bullish, the red one, the magenta one is bearish. I'll be honest with you, at this particular time, I don't know which one is the correct. Bob Proctor believes that this is less likely. So Bob Proctor is not bullish. He thinks that we're not going to make all-time highs. His view is that the C wave of the wave 4 was too long and it took too much time to form. So he does not think this is likely. I'm agnostic. I don't know. At the moment, I still think this is a probability we have to consider for all-time highs. So Bob Proctor believes that we're about to collapse after this rally. We're about to collapse in the new year, 2024, into a decline, into wave 3 decline below 10K. I don't know. I'm not sure. As I said, when I was speaking with him, I kind of agreed with him when I was talking with Bob Proctor. But I'll be honest with you, having examined the charts of Bitcoin, I'm at the moment, I'm not sure. I can see both sides. I need more information from the market. As I said at the start of this video, I need to see, so going back to what I said at the start of this video, I need to see how Bitcoin acts in the next several weeks when it reaches those levels of resistance, the 47K to 50K region. If we hold those levels of resistance of 47 to 50K and then pull back correctively, that's bullish for Bitcoin. If we pull back impulsively in fine waves, that's dangerous for Bitcoin. That would be a major warning signal, especially if we pull back and break down below 35K or 40K to 35K. So that's what I got for you, Steve. That's pretty much my point to me.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is you bring up the 48K. That's something that we talk a lot about on my channel. Right now, Bitcoin has just entered what I call phase 2 of the bull. Phase 2 of the bull builds market structure directly on the prior phase, which was phase 1. Phase 1 built market structure directly on top of the bear market bottom, had a resistance level. Phase 1 builds directly on top of that. Phase 2 builds directly on top of that. So phase 2, in my estimation, has its support zone at about 31K, its resistance zone at about 48K, and we should be range bound in that zone, in my estimation, between 100 and 200 days. In 2012, it was 175 days. In 2016, it was 185 days. So it's following the same distinct patterns, cycle after cycle, and that's what I'm looking for at the moment. And
so just to be clear, you're saying that after we reach 48, 50K region in this current move that we're seeing, then we range bound for approximately 100 to 120 days. Is it?
100 to 200 days starting now, starting the entrance into phase 2. So phase 2 is just starting, right? We just entered phase 2. So 100 to 200 days from now, it's not likely that we get above 48K. And it's likely to see some heavy resistance at 48K for a multitude of reasons, including all the points that you brought up.
It's an interesting point of view you have there, Steve. Very interesting. But this range-bound structure, so when you say range-bound, between which levels? Sorry about that.
We should have heavy resistance at 48K and we should have heavy support at 30K. And it's very likely that we have to touch 30K during our range-bound movements to confirm our market structure.
You think we'll be range-bound in that kind of consolidation?
Yeah.
For 100 to 200 days.
Starting right now. In 2012, we were range-bound for 175 days, and that same structure that was built directly on top of phase 1. And then that next cycle, 2016, was range-bound for about 185 days in that same pivotal point, that phase 2. So what's going to be really interesting is once we get above 48K, that's going to be our parabolic top that everyone's been waiting for, that will not last as long as it did in prior cycles. And it will not be as powerful as the prior cycles. But once that whole thing completes, it's likely that Bitcoin is in some more longer term trouble because of what could be a triple top. And that is interesting because like you know, in the stock market, every 30 or 40 years, it's a decade of range-bound dead market. It rejuvenates and then it starts the next cycle.
What I would say about that is, absolutely, it's possible. I could see that happening, the range-bound. However, you remember that second possibility or second wave count I showed you about the bearish count where the rally would be a B wave and followed by C wave? So here's what I would say about it. If it's correct that if we're in a B wave rally, like you see on the right-hand side, so in other words, if we are in this structure, in this B wave rally structure, before a C wave decline. Now again, let me say again, I don't know if that's the correct picture until we get more information after we hit 48K, your levels at mine up, as you said. But here's the problem. If this is the correct wave count, that we're in a B wave rally to be followed by C wave decline, C wave declines are notoriously known for being sharp and fast and volatile in structure and movement. In other words, if we hit 48 to 50K and then see an impulsive 5-wave decline from that level, that would be initial sign of a wave 1 of a C wave decline. Okay? So what I'm saying is this: if we start suddenly dropping, if we suddenly start dropping in a very volatile and, shall we say, dynamic, very fast fashion after we hit 48 to 50K in an impulsive pattern, then we may actually decline in a very, very sort of sharp and fast movement structure, because that's what C waves usually are. So I'm just mentioning this because there may be a possibility that we may not be range bound if that's the case, if that's the C wave, if we're following an ABC pattern like that. However, going back to your point, you're absolutely right. We could be stuck in something of a range bound structure if we are, for example, if we are here, if we are in the wave 5 of 5 and moving towards all-time highs, then yeah, I could see we could be stuck in some kind of a range-bound structure, perhaps after, either before or after we hit all-time highs. Yeah, you could be right. We could be stuck in some kind of a range-bound sideways structure here, or afterwards, after we hit all-time highs. So my point simply is this. My point simply is that if we are in this structure here, the wave of a fine, yeah, you're absolutely right. We could be stuck in some kind of a range-bound structure after we reach 48 to 50K. However, if we are in the opposite, if we are in the other structure, B wave followed by C wave decline, then I think a range-bound movement is less likely, because C wave movements after the B wave rally are very, very volatile, sharp, and usually very quick in their movements. And we'll find out.
And just to be clear, the range bound, what I mean by range bound is that would be after a triple top. I mean range bound for a whole cycle. I mean like the whole next cycle, like the 2027, 2028, we're going to have trouble again. We've got that triple top already in our rear view mirror, and we have to approach that level and see how Bitcoin deals with it. But that would be the healthiest thing Bitcoin could ever have, is something like that where we're range bound potentially from 2021 until like 2028. Nobody would want that. I wouldn't want it, but boy, would that be healthy for the markets, because it would totally refresh that whole 13-year, 14-year cycle that we've just had. Then that whole thing would repeat again.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Yeah, I can see that.
But nobody knows. It's just, the charts are very interesting. I think 48K is a level that we've been looking at for a long time. It sounds like you've been looking at it for a long time. Everybody should it should be on your radar for, just look at the market structure. I mean, 48K is so important. So what I would love everybody to do is go follow Alessio. If somehow you're on YouTube and you like crypto and you have not discovered Alessio, you need to go follow him. He's, once again, a brilliant mind with the Elliott wave. This is something that I don't focus on, but we've come to the same kind of conclusions, right? We were on a video almost a year ago, and I was showing some charts to Alessio, and he's like, oh my God, I'm looking at these kind of charts too.
Thanks very much for having me on your program, and really appreciate this. And by the way, you're absolutely right that from the beginning of this year, I remember from December of last year, from January this year, both of us went against the grain, because the majority of people disagreed with both of us. I remember reading the comments, both on your videos and my videos. People were saying, you got to be kidding. You can't be bullish. Why would you be bullish on Bitcoin? But I think we were right to have that opinion, to go against the majority point of view.
Absolutely. We'll have the link to Alessio's channel in the description. Go follow Alessio, go show him some love, and I may make an appearance on his channel. Hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you back here in the next video. Do you want to know when to buy and when to sell? Click this video right now.